Welcome to my fellow Montanans. I'm Dr. Kyle Austin, owner of Farm 406, and this is my fellow Montanans, where we are here every Sunday at 7 p.m. on KGHL, the 94.7, or the mighty 790 AM, or the mighty 790.com. So welcome to my fellow Montanans. What is going on this Sunday, and what have we missed this last week since the last episode? Because it's still a great month. It's October. It's a great month in Montana. Don't forget, you set your clocks back today, November 1st. Actually, November 2nd. Today is November 2nd. So what's going on in the big news? So the federal SNAP program, and this is going to be this is a hot topic, right? Because a lot of people are on food stamps. A lot of people rely on the SNAP program, but the federal SNAP program funding issue. Let's talk about that. So what is SNAP? SNAP stands for the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, and it's an anti-hunger program to help you or people in need. It's supposed to be for people in need to help buy groceries. So what is the impact on grocery stores, folks? Because a lot of grocery stores out there have benefited from the SNAP program because people get free money and they go spend it on all this stuff at the grocery store, whether they need it or not, and they blow through a budget. The grocery stores benefit from it, right? So without the SNAP program here starting this month, are the grocery stores going to have to cut their prices? Are they going to see a reduction in sales? I don't think so. I don't think you hear the people out there complaining about the SNAP program and you're taking the freebies away, but I don't think it's going to hurt them. I think people have money in the bank and they're just going to go out and they're going to do their shopping. The SNAP program was just an extra benefit for a lot of people. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people out there that are disabled and elderly that do need the program. But 44% probably do not. Now, let's talk a little bit about the SNAP program, because we talk about the Farm Bill a lot, and a lot of farmers and ranchers out there need the Farm Bill for their subsidies as well. But the holdup on the Farm Bill has always been the SNAP program. And so here you have the Republicans blaming the Democrats for holding back federal funding to get the SNAP program funded and get people the benefits that they request and they need. And that's what's going on right now is the Republicans have flip-flopped, because when it comes to the Farm Bill, the Republicans will hold off and not sign the Farm Bill because of the SNAP program. But none of the news articles out there are talking about that. None of the politicians are talking about that. So really, who is holding back the SNAP benefits? Is it the Democrats or the Republicans? The Republicans are just trying to flip-flop on this to get the voters to blame the Democrats. But it's not. The Republicans don't want the SNAP program. If they did want the SNAP program, they would have funded and signed a renewal on the Farm Bill years ago, but they haven't. So think about that. The Republicans are really the ones holding this up. But is this the start of a new era? Because we keep talking about how, the mega Trump, the mega initiative on making America great again. And one of the agendas is to eliminate public assistance. So with this government shutdown, the Republicans might be saying one thing and blaming the Democrats, but is this the start of getting people to shift away from SNAP and defunding it and defunding the program? I mean, honestly, the SNAP program has been criticized for being a gravy train for a lot of lazy people who just choose not to work that can work or find an alternative. Now let's look at the numbers here, because 62% of the SNAP beneficiaries are families with kids. And that's what I was saying about earlier, is there's a lot of people that can work and should work, but don't work. And they manipulate the system to qualify for SNAP. For instance, they can work They have to work so many hours, but they can't work more than so many hours and they qualify for SNAP. Well, why not just say, hey, you're eligible to work, go work. Now, these 62% of the beneficiaries who have kids, what are you teaching your kids? You're not teaching your kids to fend for themselves. You're teaching them to be a product of the system and to be reliable on the system, not independent. So that's what the problem is now is the people out there that have become reliant and dependent upon the system, they don't know how to do anything different. They don't know how to go out and earn a few dollars. They don't know how to cook and can. They don't know how to hunt. They don't know how to fish. They have become dependent upon the federal government to provide for them, and they don't know any different. So if you're doing that and you have kids, again, what are you teaching your kids? That it's okay to live off the system and there's no other way. So with the SNAP program shutting down, instead of whining about it, look for alternatives. Learn how to be independent of the system. Learn how to be independent of the government. So in Blackfeet News today, or in the news, Blackfeet tribe declares a state of emergency. And this is before the SNAP program even. They saw the funding getting cut, and a lot of people in the tribes, again, they live off the government. They don't know any alternative way. But here, the elected officials of the tribe declare a state of emergency instead of telling their people or leading their people in an alternative direction. You can live without the federal government. You can live without the SNAP program. That is what the message should be, folks. The gravy train is over. Find an alternative. Yeah, there's a lot of alternatives out there. I mean, you hear a lot of the news where people are going to turn to the food banks. And then you got a lot of these groups out there that you're putting together donations. Hey, that's great. But what about the grocery stores that have been living off the SNAP gravy train? At no time have they stepped up and said, hey, we expire thousands of dollars, millions of dollars of grocery product every day, and we throw it in the dump. Your Sam's Clubs, your Walmarts, your Costco's, your Albertsons, all these big places, they throw the food in the garbage because they won't make a profit off of it. They're not going to donate it, but they should. That's where the program should go, folks, is the expired products that are still able to be eaten and consumed in a healthy manner should be donated and given to low-income people. So let's look at this a little bit more in the news here, because these programs should only provide people short-term assistance, right? So when we're looking at someone having a hardship in life, okay, and they need Medicaid, they need SNAP, there should be a time limitation. There should, because you don't want people becoming dependent upon the government. You create so many other problems in society. So if someone needs help with SNAP, okay, you can have SNAP for 6 months every 2 years. So once you exhaust your 6 months, you can't reapply for another 2 years or 18 months. Something similar to that. Same thing with Medicaid. All right, we're going to provide medical assistance to you for 6 months every 2 years to help you get back on your feet. But we don't want you dependent upon the government and the other taxpayers of society. We don't. Unless you are disabled and there is a reason for long-term assistance. So we talk about the controversial with the Farm Bill, and again, the Republicans flip-flopping on this. Go back. You can call me out on it. The problem the Republicans have had with the Farm Bill is because they do not like the SNAP program. They love supporting farmers and ranchers out there, but they don't want the public assistance side to it. But now that the government funding is shut down on the SNAP, the Republicans are saying, hey, we don't want you to starve. We want you to have the SNAP program, but the Democrats will not approve. They voted 13 times to say no to our funding plan, and that's why you don't have SNAP. So they're holding people that are at the mercy of the government, that became dependable upon the government, strongholding them. They want them to blame the Democrats. But I think you're all smarter than that. I think you realize that it's really the Republicans that are holding America hostage. They have a majority. And because the Democrats in this situation on voting for a federal budget, this is one of the, let's talk about that a little bit later. But the Democrats have a little bit of a stronghold here because this is what our founding fathers wrote into the Constitution. Because you have to have those 60 votes to vote. And that gives the majority or the minority, it gives the minority the power to negotiate. And that's what the Democrats are doing right now. They're saying, Republicans, you have a majority on everything and you overrule us on everything else. But the Constitution allows us to have this one power, and that allows the minorities to have a say. And the Republicans are saying no. They're the ones holding America hostage. So instead of the SNAP program, why are the leaders out there again not raising the concerns of, hey folks, learn how to grow a garden, learn how to hunt, learn how to can your food, learn how to cook, learn how to sew, go back to home ec. Let's start teaching people how to be independent of the government. Because then the government can cut these programs. This is the start of a shift of ending socialism and the SNAP program in America. That's what it's all about. They might bring it back, but it's going to be probably downsized quite a bit. So my fellow Montanans, Farm 406 is your Montana's vaccination destination. Farm 406 is open 7 days a week, walk in, no appointments. And we offer a majority of a lot of the vaccines out there. In fact, we are the only get a brew, not the flu. With every flu shot, you get your choice of a free beer at Canyon Creek Brewery or a free coffee at Mazevo. Farm 406 has also won the 2025 Reader's Choice Best Pharmacy in Billings. And I can guarantee you, we're just not the best pharmacy in Billings. We are the best pharmacy in Montana. And you can take that to the bank because it's guaranteed. So let's jump into, should marijuana users be able to possess firearms? Now, a lot of marijuana users out there in the state of Montana and a lot of legalized marijuana users in the state of Montana. And a lot of Montanans love their guns and possess guns. So the Gun Control Act of 1968 makes it illegal for any unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance to possess a firearm. So marijuana is still scheduled as a Schedule I controlled substance under federal law. So what that means is it is the strictest, it's like cocaine, folks. That is how the federal government views marijuana. But in Montana, we've shown that people have used it fairly responsibly. Okay. And I still smell it out there. You know, you people are still smoking it and driving because you smell it coming from their cars and you smell it on their bodies when they're going anywhere, just like cigarette smoke. But for the most part, I think people have been pretty responsible with the use of medical marijuana and recreational marijuana in the state of Montana. So I think the federal government is slowly catching up. I think they're slowly catching up. But the problem is federal always supersedes state law unless state law is more strict. But so why hasn't the feds came in? Why haven't they came into Montana? Why haven't they shut down every dispensary? Why haven't they, that's an interesting question because really the state of Montana voters called bluff on the federal government. Because the feds, the DEA could walk into every dispensary and arrest all those people and burn those houses down and still arrest people for using it because it is a Schedule I controlled substance. But they don't. They haven't. Isn't that kind of odd? But anyway, the ATF form 4473. Okay, so that's the form you fill out when you go to purchase a gun. And that requires gun buyers to state whether they use marijuana. And it simply asks you, are you a user of marijuana? And yeah, everyone's out there like, well, that's my personal business. And I'm just going to mark no, because if you mark yes, they will deny you the sale of a firearm. But you mark no because you're like, I want my firearm. I have a right to a firearm. But if you mark no, it's a federal crime for lying on that form. But again, how many times in the United States has someone lied under oath and under perjury and got away with it? I have never seen anybody get criminal charges for lying under oath. Okay, a case might get dismissed, but I see it all the time where people go. This is one of the problems with the Department of Labor and Industry in the state of Montana, because they want everybody to complain about everybody. So they welcome complaints with open arms. And so people are filing these complaints against everybody all the time. And it says right at the end, you are signing this, stating that it's true and in violation of perjury and committing perjury under law, you're signing that it's factual and true. You know how many of those complaints are not true? No, they're vindictive complaints because people want to poke the bear. But you don't see the Department of Labor, when they dismiss a complaint, going after the person that submitted the complaint for perjury. They don't. They don't care because they want the complaints. That's the problem. That's one of many problems with the Montana Department of Labor and Industry. They want to hold business owners accountable over complaints and tie business owners up and cause business owners a lot of heartache, but they won't go after the person filing the complaints, the false complaints, the fraudulent complaints. The Department of Labor and Industry needs to be defunded, and they need to be deregulated, and they need to be shut down. There is so much garbage coming out of the Montana Department of Labor and Industry. We don't need it in Montana. Not Christy Jacobson. Who the heck is Swanson? Carrie Swanson is the commissioner of the Department of Labor and Industry. Do you ever hear about her in the news? No, she's a worthless commissioner. She lets that place run rogue. And yeah, I think enough said there. So let's get back to the marijuana and the guns, because even though the state of Montana has legalized marijuana, it does not override the federal prohibition of gun ownership. It doesn't. So if you've chose to go out and get your medical card and use marijuana recreational, you cannot own a firearm. If those feds walked into your house or saw it in your car or saw you out hunting, you're committing a federal offense. And they have made a point of that, because there is a Texas case law that has stirred the pot where an individual that was a marijuana user but was not under the influence of marijuana was arrested for possessing a firearm, and he's in prison. And this case is being appealed, and that's what's going on right now, is because it's been appealed to get a better decision on what's going on and what we should do in the future related to marijuana. But some people have paid the price over government ridiculousness, government overreach. That's why we need to defund our government, shrink our government, give power back to the taxpayers. So the Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to review a case that could restrict regular marijuana users the ability to possess firearms. Now, I'm a firm believer that everyone has a right to possess and carry a firearm. It's your Second Amendment right. I don't care if you're a criminal. I don't care if you smoke marijuana. I don't care how old you are. Everyone in the United States has a right to carry a firearm, because you have a right to defend yourself, whatever the cause may be, whether it's defending yourself with your fist, defending yourself with a knife, or defending yourself with a firearm. So because you use marijuana, let's say you're a recreational user and you use marijuana in the four corners of your own home, why should they tell you you can't defend your house or your person or your family? That's the government ridiculousness. It's government control to deregulate the people, because at the end of the day, the government is afraid of the people. They are. That's why they pass all these laws to make more people criminals. They make more people pets of society. And it goes back to like we were talking about the SNAP program. The government wants you to be at the mercy of their hand. They want to be the hand that feeds you. They don't want you to have the freedom. They don't. Just think about it right now. If they couldn't fund the SNAP program and nobody needed it, they have no power, right? They have no power. That's where we need to go back and deregulate the government. Or actually, we need to defund the entire government. And that's what the government shutdown is great for, because now we can realize with this government shutdown, what are the important things and what are not the important things. Shut down the not important things. And we can realize that over time here, if the government stayed shut down for an entire year and just basically said, all right, as we go along, we will find out who is more important and we will start funding that program. Do we need air controllers in our airports? The answer is yes, but should it be funded by the federal government? No. The airport authorities or the city and county governments should have full control over that airport, and they should fund those traffic controllers. They should fund that tower. That is how it should be. The federal government should not be funding those. And I'm surprised a lot of local governments have not stepped up and said, look, our airport authority over Billings International Airport is within the city government. It's our airport. We will make those traffic controllers in those towers our employees, and we will pay them. But they're not doing that because they are at the mercy of where they want federal funds. So with this court case, the Supreme Court case that's coming up where they're going to review this, there's 3 potential outcomes of the Supreme Court case. The first outcome is that they can overturn the ban. The court could strike down the federal prohibition and protect gun rights for cannabis users. And this is what I believe. I believe that's what they should do. And the reason is, like I said, everyone has a right to own guns. Everyone has a right to defend themselves. Now, if you're a cannabis user and you go misuse that firearm, there are laws that will criminalize you. That is the fear that the government can put in place of the cannabis users. But it's everyone. If you misuse a firearm, you're not just going to jail, you're going to prison because our government has made such strict laws against using a firearm. They don't care if you were defending yourself. They don't care if you were carrying a firearm. If they have a reason to use that firearm against you, they will do it. So that's why I feel like they should just overturn the ban and let the cannabis users use it, because if you misuse it or do anything that the law enforcement don't like, they'll just make you a criminal anyway. All right, so option number 2, the potential outcome of the Supreme Court case could be narrowing the ban. What the courts could do is that they could find that the ban is too broad and it only applies to individuals who are under the influence of cannabis while in possession of a firearm, which is very similar to alcohol. Okay, if you're out drinking, do not possess a firearm. So they might come back and say, you know what, we're going to treat it the same way as if you're a cannabis user and you're under the influence, it is illegal for you to possess a firearm. But if you are not under the influence, it is okay to possess a firearm. Now, I think that's fair too. I think that's a fair decision. It's like driving. If you're under the influence, don't drive. So you shouldn't even possess a car. Shouldn't even possess a car while you're under the influence. But if you're not under the influence, then yeah, drive around. Now, the option number 3 here, potential outcomes, is they can uphold the ban. And that means that the court could decide that the federal prohibition is constitutional, and they have every right to tell you that if you choose to use marijuana, you are never allowed to possess, own, use a firearm. I don't think that's going to happen in this point, but you never know. You never know what these judges, these rogue judges, I mean, they like throwing the book at everybody. The judges are not there for the people, folks. They are there for the government. because they want to create everyone, they want to make everybody criminals and create pets of society. My fellow Montanans, this is Dr. Kyle Austin, and we are going to take a short break. Welcome back to My Fellow Montanans. My Fellow Montanans is a statewide weekly broadcast on topics ranging from business to agriculture, from health to politics, and anything in between. You can follow My Fellow Montanans on youtube.com at My Fellow Montanans. You can listen on 94.7 FM or the mighty 790 AM, or listen live anywhere in the world at mighty790.com. Now, my fellow Montanans, Farm 406 is your Montana vaccination destination. But we're not just here for vaccines. We're here for your prescription drugs too. And a great announcement is Farm 406 has won the best pharmacy of 2025. Now, this is the second year in a row because Farm 406 won best pharmacy in 2024 as well. But we won best pharmacy of 2025 as well. So that's 2 years in a row. And we're not just best pharmacy in Billings. We are the best pharmacy in the state of Montana. We offer statewide delivery, whether we're dropping it off from our truck or dropping it in the mail, or you just coming right to Billings. I mean, we get people that travel to Farm 406 and have found us to be a destination. I mean, especially the people that live in the Heights. I mean, it's not a short drive to get from the Heights over to the West End, but it's still quicker to drive to Farm 406 from the Heights and pick up your prescription and get home than waiting for your prescription at one of the corporate pharmacies that are in the Heights. People stand in line for hours up in the Heights. That's what I'm talking about. It's quicker to drive to the West End to Farm 406 than to use the corporations in the Heights. Interesting. That's why we are voted best and the best pharmacy in the state of Montana. So let's jump back into some government ridiculousness here. Let's try to find, something. Well, we talked about this the last time. Okay. Actually, before we jump into this, it's November 2nd today. Crazy weekend. We had Halloween on the 31st. We sold Montana Millionaire tickets on Saturday at Farm 406 to our customers because our customers are appreciated. So yes, I came in unpaid, 5:30 in the morning. My staff joined me, and we opened the doors for the Montana Millionaire tickets. And I hope I sold not just one of you, not just two of you, not just three of you. I hope I've sold all 5 $1 million tickets at Farm 406, but we won't know until Christmas. That's a sad thing. I mean, you get all excited about these $1 million tickets, and then you got to wait 2 months for it, or a month and a half. Yeah. Something like that. So anyway, on Christmas, we're going to find out if Farm 406 sold 5 $1 million tickets. And then today on November 2nd, guess what? It's fall back. You had to wake up in the morning. You woke up earlier than you thought you did because the clocks rolled back an hour. So hopefully you're not late to work tomorrow. Because if you're late to work, there's issues. You should be 1 hour early to work because that's the interesting thing. I'm always an hour early and I'm in my office. And if I get an employee that walks through the door an hour early, ready to go to work, they didn't set their clocks back. So anyway, government ridiculousness, beef prices. This came out and then it really disappeared. And I don't know if the SNAP program news kind of took over, but we're still going to beat up Troy Downing because Troy Downing tried to get the headlines because him and 8 other congressmen, congresswomen, sent letters to the president about importing beef from Argentina. Now there's no, you know, this is dumb. I mean, there's only 8 of them signing this letter, but what he said in the letter is he's trying to make the argument that Argentina beef is not very quality and it's not safe. It's poor quality and unsafe for Americans. Folks, that's not true. Why beat up the Argentine ranchers saying their beef is garbage? Their beef isn't garbage. It's good beef, it's quality beef. It's just from another country. What Troy Downing needs to be doing is backing the ranchers out there. Because what Donald Trump is trying to do is the same thing that Reagan did. And what happens is what's been going on is the beef market is unregulated. And the only way the federal government can regulate the beef market is by importing competition. So when beef prices get up to $7 a price, which it has been, and that makes some people upset because a lot of people don't realize the hard work that goes into that beef. So Donald Trump did what Reagan did. He starts talking about importing beef from Argentina to help offset and lower the prices of beef in the United States. But Troy Downing took the approach of wanting to bash the Argentinas by saying it's quality. It's a poor letter. It's a poor approach. It's a poor argument. And so that's where us voters in Eastern Montana, I didn't vote for Troy Downing. You probably voted for Troy Downing. But what you should be doing is looking at the quality of your elected official. Troy Downing's from California. I mean, he came up here and in 2000, he was trying to run on the Senate seat back in against Tester in 2012, 13, 14, I think somewhere right in there he was running. But then he got busted in 2018 for poaching. No, he was purchasing tickets saying he was a resident, but he wasn't a resident of Montana. He was still a Californian. So he was confused about his residency and buying the wrong tickets for shooting deer. But that's okay because the quality of Troy Downing must be par for you to vote for him, but I don't see the quality of him being our United States congressman. So that's the question you have, is the quality of our elected representatives. So let's jump into this Montana beef thing, because if people think $7 is high, that if we divide that by 2, that's $3.50 per half pound. Folks, that's cheaper than paying for a hamburger, a 3rd-pound burger. Now, look at the expenses. I mean, our taxes have gone up, our payroll has gone up, fuel has gone up, the cost of a tractor has gone up, the cost of a pickup has gone up. Don't you think the rancher deserves to finally be paid what he should be paid? That is the position I would take as your elected official. Folks, yes, paying more sucks. But guess what? Having no beef would suck more, because your greediness of wanting $1.25 hamburger is driving our hardworking Montana ranchers out of business. So suck it up and pay the ranchers what they're worth. That should be the message. That is what the elected officials, well, they might say it a little nicer, okay? I'm being a little, I'm a little direct, I know, but people have to hear the directness. They have to hear the truth. What does it really cost a rancher in the state of Montana per pound of beef? And it could fluctuate year to year, but if they need $7 a pound, folks, it's either you pay what that beef is worth and you keep those ranchers operating so they can be here for generations to come, or go eat chicken. Or better yet, buy an Oscar Mayer hot dog, because you don't know what's in that hot dog. But that's what the elected officials should really be saying. That's what Troy Downing should be urging Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we don't want you to import this beef. One, because we have great beef right here in the great state of Montana. We have great beef right here in the United States. We have plenty of beef to feed everybody. But the reason we don't want you to is because Americans deserve better. Our ranchers deserve better. Set the example. Protect Montana industry, especially the farmers and ranchers out there. So let's see here. So what if we raise the price of beef? Because I grew up in Havre, Montana, and you've heard about that before. I'm a Highline guy, and they had Rocky Mountain Packing when I was a kid, and this was a slaughterhouse and a packing plant right in city limits of Havre, right on First Street, right there across from McDonald's. There's a Chinese place, but it's been ripped down, and nowadays there's a town pump has a Lucky Lil's casino there. Go figure, right? But they used to take cattle in there, slaughter them, process them. Those were the good old days. And that was the same story in a lot of communities out there. But a lot of those packing plants, or actually all of them, every packing plant has closed their doors because the prices haven't been there. I mean, do you want to go cut meat in a cold freezing freezer and not turn a profit? No, nobody wants to do that. I don't think any business owner out there really wants to put a business together without turning a profit. So the market has drove all of these slaughterhouses to close down everywhere. And so now ranchers are trucking all their beef to these major slaughterhouses in like Nebraska, I think is where most of the beef in Montana goes to. And there's 3 major packers out there in the whole United States, only 3. Now, don't you think that is corruption? Don't you think that is monopolization? It is. It is. But if we can bring back good quality beef and people pay what it's worth, would it open the door for more packing plants, more processors in small communities around Montana and around the United States? I think it will. I think people will say this is a lucrative business and we can start producing local beef again. There's no more sense in trucking it 600 miles away and then turning around and packing it up and freezing it and trucking it right back. That's stupid. Should we prohibit importation of beef? I believe so. But then you got the people out there that want cheap stuff. So maybe we need we do need the country of label origin sticker. So if you go to the grocery store and you don't care about price, you want quality, you're going to look for the made in Montana sticker. And if you're a cheapskate out there that likes to rip off the hardworking rancher, you're going to look at the $1.35 imported ? Argentina beef. But I already said Argentina beef's just as good, but it's going to be cheaper. So you can make your pick. You know, what kind of burger do you want and who you are, because you have morals. If you want to stab your local rancher in the back and buy that Argentina beef, I hope you sleep better at night. But we'll leave that up to you. But I'm going to stand behind, if the ranchers need $7 a pound beef, pay it. If you don't like it, eat chicken. Okay, so is the government shutdown a good thing or a bad thing? And I've said it over and over. I am loving this government shutdown because it is a good thing. And I wish it would go further. I wish it would go further and we can shut down the city governments, we can shut down the state government, and we can actually see, what do we actually need in our government? What do we need? I can guarantee you the number one thing that we need from our federal government is protection. We need our military, and we need to be protected from foreign invaders. And that's about it. I mean, we should be independent of our government. Our state's governments and our city government should be out there flipping the bill for highway maintenance and highway improvements. But we can decide all that over time. Every government employee should be terminated, and those employees should be out applying for the private workforce. Because a lot of employers out there, folks, they're hiring, they need good talent, but a lot of the workforce is shifted to the government because one, the government pays better, they have better benefits, and people get paid time off and da 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 da. But if the government released a lot of the workforce and people went back into the private industry, America would thrive again. And if the government shut down and we start like looking at, all right, what do we need? Because it's suffering, and the government opens that up and funds it slowly, slowly, slowly. That's what we should be doing. Our national debt has passed $38 trillion this last month, folks. I mean, that's $5 trillion more than the beginning of the pandemic. And the person America voted for, Donald Trump, promised, the Republicans have promised that they were going to focus on paying down that national debt and helping eliminate it. But instead, they grew it. They didn't stand behind their campaign promises. And this doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. These are the politicians out there. They are not being held accountable to the promises. But by shutting our government down, folks, that is one way that we can help eliminate the $1 trillion debt. Because I don't want to pay for it when I'm, God forbid, someone's going to say we owe that much money in the world. If they come to collect that debt, how are we going to pay for it? Are we going to sell them Alaska or we could sell them California? I mean, a lot of Montanans would vote, heck yeah, let's get rid of California. We'll just sell California to the Chinese for 38 trillion and let them have it. But American people get wrapped up in the election buzz terms. They like to hear the campaign slogans or the campaign buzzwords. We're going to pay off the national debt, and everyone jumps up, yeah, but then they don't follow up and they don't say, hey, we're 2 years into your your presidency, Donald Trump, and we're 2 years into your governorship, Gianforte, but our national debt is still growing. You didn't change a thing. You're spending money just as much as the other guy did. So it doesn't matter. I mean, they keep doing that. But the other thing is too, this whole fentanyl crisis. You got all the Republicans out there this last go around was like, we have a fentanyl problem. We're going after fentanyl. And everyone liked the idea. They did. But in the first place, no one asked. It's like, wait, we spend how much money on the DEA? Why do we have a fentanyl crisis in the first place? And it's because the DEA has failed America. They have. Go back into the 70s and the 80s. Marijuana, like I mentioned, was a class 1 narcotic. And it was just like cocaine getting smuggled in from the Mexican border. And they used it as a campaign strategy to put fear in people to vote for them. But marijuana got out of control and the DEA couldn't handle it. So what happens? It's been used by so many people out there that now you have these public initiatives where it's legal in states like Montana. And it will soon probably be legal nationwide. But that is after we spent how much money in the 70s and 80s and 90s to protect America from marijuana? You think the DEA and the government agencies would have done their job and learned how to protect America? But anyway, this fentanyl thing that they blow up, this gets into something really interesting because they blew up fentanyl, as you know, everyone jumped on board, they voted Republican. But is fentanyl really a problem? And it is, but it isn't. And we'll jump right back into that after this quick break. So my fellow Montanans, remember Farm 406 is your Montana's vaccination destination. Get a brew, not the flu. Farm 406 is open 7 days a week. Walk in, no appointments. Now, for you senior citizens out there, or if you have a mom and dad that's on Medicare, it is Medicare enrollment time. And Farm 406 has partnered with Wendy Nelson over at Ask Insurance. So seniors get the best plans because, believe it or not, insurance agents are corrupt because they get paid more by certain insurance companies to push their plan. And so seniors won't end up on the plan that's best for the senior citizen. They will end up on the plan that is best for that insurance agent. So don't fall for that trap. Go to someone like Wendy Nelson at Ask Insurance, where she will put you on a Medicare plan that is best for you. Now, when you're out there shopping these plans, remember Farm 406 does not show up on there. This is government corruption because you will only see the major competitors, the major brands showing up on this list. And that's the corruption with our federal government and the Medicare.gov website. They don't care about the little guy. So, guess what? The little guys like me don't care too much about the federal government either, right? It goes both ways. So, anyway, let's jump back into this topic about the marijuana being a problem or fentanyl being a problem. Okay. So last week I talked about how my headline or the headlines in the news should be Governor Gianforte turns Democrat. And that is because he comes out now because he's been against addicts, he's been against drug users, but he has a plan. And his plan is to weaponize law enforcement and create a what do you want to call it? Where we're going to have larger correctional facilities, more law enforcement. But anyway, he's appropriating $300 million for behavioral health in the state. And it's actually, folks, it's a good headline there, but he's actually creating more pets of society. And so when you look at fentanyl, okay, the amount of money that they have dumped into fighting fentanyl, the amount of publicity that they have done going after fentanyl, these are the statistics, okay? Montana had 796 overdose related deaths over the last 4 years. That's about 200 per year. And half of those are related to fentanyl. So in the state of Montana, there are only about 100 deaths per year related to fentanyl. That is not a very big number when you look at the big picture. On average, 200 people die from highway fatalities in the state each year. But you don't see the state going out there and taking away more automobiles from people or making it more stricter on who can have a driver's license and who can drive. They don't. So it's not about the death rate. It's a political agenda to make people pets of society. Because if they were saying that 100 people dying of fentanyl is a big deal, they would be going after the fast food restaurants out there that have led to obesity, has led to heart disease, and have led to the number one cause of death in Montana and the number one cause of death in the nation. But you don't see that. So why are they targeting fentanyl? The government, you kind of think it's maybe like the government chasing after, some money, but they don't tax prescription drugs. So it can't be about the money. It just can't. Because fentanyl's not the problem. So my fellow Montanans, it's hunting season out there, right? Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Do you think, so here's a question for you, because I am not a fan of those fish boys at the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. I used to hunt growing up, but I gave it up because of all the garbage that they've created. But do you think you can go hunting with a game warden and not get a ticket? Do you? Could you take a game warden out there and legally shoot a deer, shoot an elk, any animal, and think you can do it without getting a ticket? The answer is no. There are so many rules, so many laws, how you can hunt and what you must do. You can't hunt and enjoy it anymore. You can't. And you can't do it without breaking a law. I can guarantee you, because there are so many land access rules. There's so much private land access rules, permits and tags, check stations you got to stop at. You got to report your game. You got to do testing on it. And then the other garbage that the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks created years ago is that darn point system. It is. It is. Because everyone's paying every year. It's like a lottery. Okay. It's like gambling with the wildlife. They created a lottery where every year you pay your permit fees. And if you don't win, you get the point system. Well, what about the younger hunters out there, folks? Because you got these old guys that generated all these points. These young guys aren't going to draw a tag. So they're going to get discouraged, and they're going to have to sit there and keep paying their fees over and over again. And then maybe by the time they're 50 or 60, after they paid a few $1,000s into the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks coffin, they finally get a tag drawn. That's not how our hunting should be. Every Montana resident should be able to go out, purchase a permit, purchase a tag, and go hunting. What they should be doing is eliminating the out-of-staters, because Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks sells out-of-state tags at a higher price, and they let as many out-of-staters in the state that they want to, because they make more money off of it. They make more money. And that's why I gave up on hunting, because the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, they took the fun out of it. It's not fun no more. And we're going to have another show here one of these days where I'm going to dive right into the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, because I know more than you think about the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. The Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, or the Fish Boys, as I like to call them, the Fish Boys have done nothing but turn our public hunting into a giant game farm. It is nothing more than a big fee for shooting program. And that is against their philosophy. If you go back to 2000, the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks pushed public initiative I-141 to prohibit all alternative livestock ranches in the state of Montana. Why did they do this? They went after the ranchers that were looking for alternative income, alternative sources of surviving. Why did they do this? Because it was competition. It was competition. Back in 2000, Fish, Wildlife, and Park came out with a huge campaign that alternative livestock ranches were the cause of CWD, chronic wasting disease. Folks, there was never a positive test that came off an alternative livestock ranch in the state of Montana. But because Fish, Wildlife, and Parks put misinformation. They knew it was bad information out in the public. They scared the public to vote for I-141 that put ranchers out of business. And today you go out and if you do all your testing, guess what? There's still CWD out there. It's not from the alternative livestock ranches. It is natural in our wildlife. My fellow Montanans, thank you for listening to my show. That concludes today's show. Follow My Fellow Montanans at youtube.com at My Fellow Montanans. You can listen on 94.7 FM or the Mighty 790 AM, or listen anywhere in the world at mighty790.com. If you'd like to advertise or be a guest or sponsor on My Fellow Montanans, email me, Kyle at farm406.com.